Lisa looked at her phone screen for the third time in 5 minutes. The numbers hadn't changed. Her bank balance still showed the same painful truth, $47.18. That was all she had left until Friday, and Friday felt like a lifetime away. She glanced over at her 7-year-old daughter Maya, who was quietly coloring at the kitchen table. The little girl's breathing had that familiar wheeze again, the sound that made Lisa's heart skip a beat every time she heard it. Maya tried to hide it, pressing her lips together when the coughing started, but Lisa always noticed. A mother always notices. The prescription bottle on the counter was nearly empty. Lisa had been counting the remaining pills for days, trying to make them last longer by giving Maya smaller doses. It wasn't the right thing to do, and she knew it, but what choice did she have? The doctor had been clear about the importance of the medication, especially after Maya's scary episode at school 3 weeks ago. Lisa still remembered that phone call from the nurse. Her hands had been elbow-deep in soapy dishwater at the diner where she worked mornings when her phone rang. The nurse's calm but urgent voice had sent chills down her spine. Maya couldn't breathe properly. She needed to come to school immediately. The ride to the emergency room had been the longest 15 minutes of Lisa's life. Maya had sat in the back seat, her small hand pressed against her chest, her eyes wide with fear. Lisa had kept glancing in the rearview mirror, talking to her daughter in the cheeriest voice she could manage while her own heart pounded with terror. At the hospital, everything had happened so fast. Nurses rushed Maya into a room. Doctors asked rapid-fire questions and machines beeped constantly. Lisa had stood in the corner feeling helpless and scared, watching strangers take care of her baby. The nebulizer treatment had worked, thank goodness, and Maya's breathing had slowly returned to normal. The doctor, a kind woman with graying hair, had sat down with Lisa afterward to explain what had happened. Maya had severe asthma, triggered by something at school, probably dust or cleaning chemicals. She needed daily medication to prevent future attacks, and an emergency inhaler to carry everywhere she went. Lisa had nodded and asked all the right questions, but inside her mind was already calculating costs. She'd lost her good job with health insurance 4 months earlier when the company downsized. Her ex-husband was supposed to help with medical expenses, but he'd moved to another state and stopped answering her calls. The Cobra insurance payments were $300 a month, money she simply didn't have. Now she worked 2 part-time jobs just to keep their small apartment and put food on the table. Mornings at the diner brought in tips, but they were unpredictable. Some days were good, others barely covered gas money. Her evening job cleaning office buildings paid better per hour, but she could only work after Maya went to bed, which meant getting home after midnight and being exhausted the next day. The worst part was lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, worrying about everything. Would Maya have another attack? What if she couldn't afford the medication next month either? What if something happened to her daughter because she couldn't provide proper medical care? Maya looked up from her coloring book and smiled at her mom. "Look, Mommy." I drew our house with a big garden. The picture showed a stick figure woman and a smaller stick figure girl standing in front of a house with colorful flowers everywhere. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Lisa said, forcing a smile. "What kind of flowers are those?" "Those are roses and those are sunflowers because they're happy flowers," Maya explained, pointing to different colored scribbles. "And that purple one is lavender because Mrs. Johnson next door told me it smells really good." Lisa's heart ached with love and worry. Maya was such a bright, creative child, always finding joy in simple things. She deserved so much more than their current situation. She deserved a mother who didn't have to choose between rent money and medicine money. The pharmacy closed at 6 o'clock, and it was already 4:30. Lisa had been putting off the trip all day, hoping somehow a solution would appear. Maybe her sister would call back with good news. Maybe her boss at the diner would approve the raise she'd asked for last month. Maybe a miracle would happen, but the phone hadn't rung and Maya's cough was getting worse. Lisa walked over to the kitchen counter and picked up the prescription bottle. 2 pills left. If she stretched them, maybe they'd last until Sunday. But what then? Maya needed this medication every day, not just when they could afford it. She remembered her own childhood when her mother had worked 3 jobs to support Lisa and her 2 brothers after their father left. There had been times when they'd eaten cereal for dinner, times when the electricity got shut off, times when her mother cried quietly in the bathroom thinking no one could hear. Lisa had promised herself she'd never put her own child through that kind of uncertainty. Yet here she was, facing the exact same impossible choices. Maya started coughing again, harder this time. She put down her crayon and pressed both hands against her chest, trying to catch her breath. The sound made Lisa's decision for her. "Come on, baby," she said, grabbing her purse and car keys. "Let's go for a ride." "Where are we going?" Maya asked, her voice slightly breathless. "Just to run a quick errand," Lisa replied, helping Maya put on her jacket. She didn't want to worry her daughter by mentioning the pharmacy. Maya was too young to understand their financial problems, but she was smart enough to pick up on her mother's stress. As they walked to the car, Lisa said a silent prayer. She didn't know how she'd pay for the medication, but she couldn't watch her daughter struggle to breathe. Somehow, some way, she'd figure it out. She had to. The drive to the pharmacy took only 10 minutes, but Lisa's mind raced through every possible scenario. Maybe she could ask for a payment plan. Maybe they'd accept a partial payment. Maybe there was a generic version that cost less. She'd try everything before admitting defeat. Maya chatted happily in the back seat about her day at school, completely unaware of her mother's internal struggle. Lisa listened and responded, grateful that her daughter felt well enough to talk, but part of her attention was focused on the growing knot of anxiety in her stomach. The pharmacy parking lot was busier than usual for a Tuesday afternoon. Lisa found a spot near the back and helped Maya out of the car. As they walked toward the entrance, she took a deep breath and tried to project confidence she didn't feel. Whatever happened in the next few minutes would determine whether Maya slept peacefully tonight or spent another night coughing and wheezing. Lisa squeezed her daughter's hand gently as they approached the automatic doors. This was it. Time to face whatever came next. The automatic doors of the pharmacy whooshed open, bringing with it the familiar smell of antiseptic and air conditioning. Lisa felt Maya's small hand tighten in hers as they stepped inside. The bright fluorescent lights made everything feel stark and clinical, so different from the warm lighting of their little apartment. Maya immediately became fascinated by the display of colorful Band-Aids near the entrance. "Look, Mommy, they have princess ones," she whispered excitedly, her earlier breathing troubles momentarily forgotten in the wonder of childhood discovery. Lisa managed a smile, though her stomach was doing somersaults. "Maybe we can get some of those next time, sweetheart." The words felt hollow even as she said them. Next time? When would there be money for extras like princess Band-Aids? They made their way to the back of the store where the pharmacy counter stood like a fortress of white coats and computer screens. The pharmacist working today was Mr. Rodriguez, an older gentleman with kind eyes and salt and pepper hair, who had always been patient with Maya during their previous visits. Lisa had been hoping he'd be working today. If anyone might understand their situation, it would be him. There were 2 people ahead of them in line. Lisa used the waiting time to rehearse what she would say. Maybe she could ask about generic alternatives. Maybe there was some kind of assistance program she didn't know about. Maybe they could work out a payment plan where she could pay half now and half next week when she got her tips from the diner. Maya tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, my chest feels tight again." Lisa knelt down to her daughter's level, trying to keep her voice calm and reassuring. "Just try to breathe slowly, baby. In through your nose, out through your mouth, remember? Like the doctor showed us." She demonstrated the breathing technique and Maya copied her, but Lisa could still hear that telltale wheeze. The line moved forward. Now there was just one elderly woman ahead of them, carefully counting out exact change for her prescription. Lisa's palms were starting to sweat. She wiped them on her jeans and tried to think positive thoughts, but her mind kept returning to that number in her bank account, $47.18. Finally, it was their turn. Mr. Rodriguez looked up from his computer screen and smiled warmly at them both. "Hello, Lisa. How are we doing today, Maya?" He had a grandfatherly way about him that immediately put children at ease. "I'm okay," Maya replied politely, though she had to pause in the middle to catch her breath. Lisa stepped forward and placed the empty prescription bottle on the counter. Her hands were trembling slightly and she hoped Mr. Rodriguez wouldn't notice. "We need a refill on Maya's asthma medication, please." Mr. Rodriguez picked up the bottle and examined the label, then turned to his computer to pull up Maya's information. The clicking of his keyboard seemed extraordinarily loud in the quiet pharmacy. Lisa could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. "All right, let me just check what we have in stock," Mr. Rodriguez said, disappearing into the maze of white shelves behind the counter. Lisa watched him through the gaps between medicine bottles, moving efficiently from section to section. Maya wandered over to look at the blood pressure machine, fascinated by all the buttons and the big cuff hanging from its side. "What's that for, Mommy?" "It checks how healthy people's hearts are," Lisa explained absently. Her attention focused on Mr. Rodriguez, who was now returning with a white paper bag. "Good news. We have everything you need," he said, placing the bag on the counter. "Let me just ring this up for you." His fingers flew over the register keys and Lisa held her breath, praying for a miracle. The register display turned toward her, showing the total in bright red numbers. $347.63. Lisa felt the world tilt sideways. She had known it would be expensive, but seeing the actual number made it real in a way that gutted her. $347. She might as well have been asked to pay $3 million. Is there a generic version?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Rodriguez checked his computer again, his expression growing more sympathetic. "I'm afraid this is already the generic version. The brand name would be about twice as much." Lisa's throat went dry. Behind her, she could hear more customers getting in line. A businessman checking his watch impatiently. A mother with a crying baby. The pressure of their waiting eyes made everything worse. She opened her wallet with shaking hands and pulled out the crumpled bills she had counted so many times that morning. Ones, fives, a couple of tens. The coins in the bottom of her purse added up to maybe $3 in change. She spread everything on the counter like a prayer offering, but the math was cruel and unchanging. I have $73, she said quietly, arranging and rearranging the bills as if she could somehow make them multiply. "Is there any way? Could I maybe pay the rest next Friday when I get paid?" Mr. Rodriguez looked genuinely pained. "Lisa, I wish I could, but the system doesn't allow payment plans. Corporate policy. My hands are tied." The businessman behind them cleared his throat loudly, obviously irritated by the delay. Lisa's cheeks burned with embarrassment. Maya had returned to her side and was looking up at the adults with confused eyes, sensing the tension, but not understanding its source. Lisa fumbled for her phone with desperate fingers. Maybe her sister Rachel could help. She had asked before and been turned down, but this was an emergency. She dialed the number with trembling hands while the line behind her grew longer and more restless. "Hey, Rach, I know I asked before, but Maya really needs her medication and I'm short about $270. Could you possibly—" She was talking too fast, words tumbling over each other. Her sister's voice was gentle but firm. "Lisa, honey, you know I would if I could. But with Jake starting college next month and the car repairs we just had to pay for, we're tapped out. I'm so sorry." Lisa closed her eyes and nodded, though her sister couldn't see her. "It's okay. I understand. Thanks anyway." She tried her mother next, but the call went straight to voicemail. Her mom worked double shifts at the nursing home and couldn't always answer her phone. Lisa didn't leave a message. What was the point? The businessman behind them was now tapping his foot audibly. The baby was crying louder. Maya tugged on Lisa's shirt and whispered, "Mommy, are you okay?" That innocent question broke something inside Lisa's chest. Here was her 7-year-old daughter struggling to breathe, asking if her mother was okay. The roles should have been reversed. Lisa should be the one taking care of Maya, not the other way around. Tears started to blur her vision as she looked down at the pathetic pile of bills on the counter. She began to gather them up, her movements slow and defeated. "I'm sorry," she said to Mr. Rodriguez. I'll have to come back when I have more money." But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. When would she have an extra $300? Her tips barely covered groceries and gas. Her cleaning job paid the rent. There was nothing left over for emergencies, even emergencies that involved her daughter's ability to breathe. Maya coughed again, harder this time, and Lisa's resolve crumbled completely. She couldn't leave without this medicine. She couldn't watch her daughter suffer because of her financial failures as a mother, but she also couldn't magically produce money she didn't have. The businessman stepped around them, clearly done with waiting. "Excuse me," he said impatiently to Mr. Rodriguez. "I just need to pick up a prescription for Johnson." Lisa felt smaller than she ever had in her life. She was holding up the line. She couldn't afford her daughter's medicine, and everyone was watching her fail as a parent in the most public way possible. "Mommy," Maya said quietly, her small hand finding Lisa's. "It's okay. I feel better today. Maybe I don't need the medicine right now. Those words shattered Lisa's heart completely. Her 7-year-old daughter was trying to comfort her, trying to make this impossible situation easier by pretending she didn't need the medication that was keeping her alive. Lisa knelt down and pulled Maya into a fierce hug, not caring who was watching or waiting. "You always need your medicine, baby," she whispered into Maya's hair. "Always." But as she said it, Lisa didn't know how she was going to make that promise come true. Lisa was still kneeling on the pharmacy floor, holding Maya close, when she heard a gentle voice behind her. At first, she thought it was just another impatient customer, and she braced herself for more frustration or judgment. But the tone was different, quiet, respectful, almost hesitant. "Excuse me," the voice said softly. "I couldn't help but overhear your situation." Lisa quickly wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and stood up, still clutching Maya's small fingers. She turned around to see a man probably in his early 50s, dressed in a simple navy business suit that looked expensive but not flashy. He had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and graying hair that was neatly combed but showed signs of a long day. What struck her most was his expression. Not pity, not judgment, just genuine concern. "I'm sorry if we're holding up the line," Lisa said quickly, her voice still shaky from crying. "We were just leaving." The man shook his head gently. "Please don't apologize. I have a daughter myself and He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Would you allow me to help with the medication?" Lisa blinked, certain she had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "The prescription," he said, nodding toward the white bag still sitting on the pharmacy counter. "Please let me take care of it." Lisa's first instinct was to refuse. She had been taught since childhood to be independent, to never accept handouts, to work for everything she needed. Her own mother had scrubbed floors and waited tables rather than ask for help from anyone. Taking charity from a complete stranger felt wrong, even in desperate circumstances. "No, I couldn't possibly," she stammered, backing up a step. "That's very kind, but we'll be fine. I'll figure something out." Maya looked up at the stranger with curious eyes. Children had a way of sensing genuine kindness, and she didn't seem afraid of him at all. "Are you a doctor?" she asked innocently. "You dress like Dr. Peterson." The man smiled warmly and crouched down to Maya's level, just as Lisa had done moments earlier. "No, sweetheart, I'm not a doctor, but I do know how important medicine is when someone isn't feeling well." He looked directly at Maya with the kind of attention adults rarely gave children. "Are you feeling okay today?" Maya nodded but then had another small coughing fit. "Sometimes it's hard to breathe," she explained matter-of-factly, the way children do when they're used to something being wrong. "But Mommy takes good care of me." The stranger's eyes softened even more. He glanced up at Lisa, and she could see something that looked like understanding pass across his features. "I'm sure she does," he said gently. Standing back up, he addressed Lisa again. "I know this is awkward, and I know you don't know me from anyone, but I've been where you are." His voice was quiet enough that the other customers couldn't hear, respectful of her dignity, even in this moment of vulnerability. "Not exactly the same situation, but close enough to understand how you're feeling right now." Lisa studied his face, trying to understand what he meant. He didn't look like someone who had ever struggled financially. His clothes, his watch, even the way he carried himself suggested comfort and success. But there was something in his eyes that seemed genuine, something that spoke of real experience with hardship. "Sir, I appreciate the offer, I really do," Lisa said, her voice stronger now but still emotional. "But this medication costs over $300. I can't let a stranger spend that kind of money on us." "What if I told you it wasn't about the money?" he asked. "What if I told you it was about one parent helping another parent do what's best for their child?" Mr. Rodriguez had been watching this exchange with interest from behind the pharmacy counter. He had seen many situations like this over his 20-year career, but something about this felt different. The man wasn't being pushy or condescending. He was simply offering help in the most respectful way possible. Lisa looked down at Maya, who was holding her small hand against her chest again, trying to ease the tightness that was clearly bothering her. The sight of her daughter in discomfort made the decision easier, even though every fiber of her independent spirit rebelled against accepting help. "Why would you do this for strangers?" she asked, needing to understand his motivation before she could accept. The man was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to share. "I grew up with a single mother," he said finally. "There were times when she had to make impossible choices between things we needed. Medicine, food, rent. She couldn't always afford everything." He paused, lost in what seemed like old memories. "I remember one time when I was about your daughter's age. I had an ear infection that wouldn't go away. My mother stood in a pharmacy just like this one, counting and recounting the money in her wallet, knowing it wasn't enough." Lisa felt her resistance beginning to crumble. This wasn't some wealthy person throwing money around to feel good about themselves. This was someone who genuinely understood her situation. "A stranger helped us that day," he continued. "An older woman who was behind us in line. She said something I never forgot. Someday when you can, you'll help someone else the same way." That was 35 years ago, and I've been looking for opportunities to pay it forward ever since. Maya tugged on Lisa's shirt. "Mommy, what's pay it forward mean?" Before Lisa could answer, the stranger knelt down again. "It means when someone helps you, you help someone else later when you can. Like a chain of kindness that goes from person to person." Maya nodded solemnly, as if this made perfect sense to her 7-year-old worldview. "That sounds nice." Lisa felt tears threatening again, but these were different tears. "I don't even know your name," she said softly. "It's Robert," he said, extending his hand. "And you don't need to thank me or remember my name or do anything except take care of your daughter." Lisa shook his hand, noting that his grip was firm but gentle. "I'm Lisa, and this is Maya. It's very nice to meet you both," Robert said formally, as if they were being introduced at a business meeting instead of in the middle of a personal crisis. He walked past them to the pharmacy counter and pulled out his wallet. Mr. Rodriguez was already reaching for the prescription bag, having overheard enough of the conversation to understand what was happening. "I'd like to pay for the little girl's medication," Robert said quietly. "Of course," Mr. Rodriguez replied, his voice full of warmth. "That will be $347.63. Robert handed over his credit card without hesitation, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. Lisa watched in amazement as the transaction processed, still hardly believing this was really happening. While they waited for the receipt to print, Robert turned back to Maya. "Do you like school?" he asked. "Yes. I'm learning cursive writing," Maya said proudly. "It's really hard, but my teacher says I'm getting better." "That's wonderful. Cursive is a beautiful way to write. Do you have a favorite subject?" "Art and reading," Maya said immediately. "I like to draw pictures of the stories after I read them." "That sounds like a perfect combination," Robert said. "Artists and readers see the world in special ways." The receipt printed, and Mr. Rodriguez handed the medication bag to Lisa along with Robert's credit card. "Everything's all set," he said with a genuine smile. "Make sure Maya takes one pill every morning with food." Lisa took the bag with trembling hands. Inside was a month's worth of medication that would keep her daughter breathing easily, sleeping peacefully, playing and learning without the constant worry of the next attack. It felt impossibly precious. "I don't know how to thank you," she said to Robert, her voice thick with emotion. "You don't need to thank me," he replied. "Just remember what I told Maya about paying it forward. Someday, when you're able, help someone else who needs it. That's thanks enough." As they walked toward the pharmacy exit together, Maya skipping between the adults, Lisa felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not just because of the medication, but because of the reminder that there were still good people in the world, people who helped without expecting anything in return. "Mr. Robert," Maya said as they reached the door. "Are you an angel?" Robert laughed, a warm sound that made Lisa smile despite everything. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who remembers what it's like to need help." And with that simple statement, he had changed everything. Lisa couldn't sleep that night. She lay in bed listening to Maya's peaceful, steady breathing from the next room, and for the first time in weeks there was no wheeze, no coughing, no frightening interruptions to her daughter's rest. The medication was working perfectly, and Maya had even managed to run around the playground after school without any problems. But Lisa's mind kept returning to Robert, the stranger who had changed their lives with a simple act of kindness. She replayed their conversation over and over, trying to understand what kind of person just pays for a stranger's expensive medication without thinking twice about it. His words echoed in her head. "Someday when you can, You'll help someone else the same way. The next morning, while Maya was at school, Lisa found herself unable to concentrate on her work at the diner. She burned toast, mixed up orders, and nearly dropped a full tray of coffee cups. Her coworker Jenny finally pulled her aside during the lunch rush. "Girl, what's wrong with you today? You're acting like you're on another planet," Jenny said, refilling the napkin dispensers while Lisa wiped down tables mechanically. Lisa told Jenny about what had happened at the pharmacy. Jenny listened with growing amazement, stopping her work completely when Lisa got to the part about Robert paying for the medication. "Wait, hold up," Jenny said, setting down the napkin holder. "A complete stranger just paid over $300 for Maya's medicine?" "Just like that?" "Just like that," Lisa confirmed. "I still can't believe it really happened. I keep expecting to wake up and find out it was all a dream." Jenny shook her head in wonder. "Honey, there are angels walking among us, and you met one yesterday. What are you going to do about it?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, you can't just let this slide by without properly thanking the man. He saved your baby's life, Lisa. That deserves more than just a handshake in the pharmacy." Lisa had been thinking the same thing. A simple thank you in the moment hadn't felt like nearly enough. This man had given her the most precious gift possible, peace of mind about her daughter's health. She wanted to do something meaningful to show her gratitude. But what could she possibly give someone who could afford to casually spend hundreds of dollars helping strangers? That evening, after Maya was asleep, Lisa sat at her kitchen table with a pen and a piece of paper. She started and stopped several letters, crumpling up draft after draft. How do you put into words what it means when someone saves your child? How do you express gratitude for something that changed everything? Finally, she settled on something simple and heartfelt. "Dear Robert, I know you said I didn't need to thank you, but I couldn't let another day pass without telling you what your kindness meant to Maya and me. Because of you, my daughter slept peacefully last night for the first time in weeks. Because of you, she was able to run and play at recess today without any problems. Because of you, I don't have to lie awake worrying about whether I'm failing as a mother. Your generosity gave us more than just medicine, it gave us hope. I promise to pay it forward someday, just like you said. Thank you for reminding me that there are still good people in the world. With all my gratitude, Lisa and Maya." The next day was Saturday, and Lisa decided to bake chocolate chip cookies, Maya's specialty recipe that they made together on weekends. If she was going to thank Robert properly, homemade cookies seemed like the kind of personal touch that showed real appreciation without being too expensive or elaborate. Maya was excited to help, even though she didn't fully understand why they were making cookies for the nice man from the pharmacy. She carefully measured ingredients and stirred the batter while Lisa preheated the oven. "Mommy, why was that man so nice to us?" Maya asked, licking cookie dough from the wooden spoon. "Some people are just good, sweetheart," Lisa explained, dropping spoonfuls of dough onto the baking sheet. "He remembered what it was like when his mom needed help, so he wanted to help us too. Will we see him again?" "I don't know, baby, but we're going to take him some cookies to say thank you." When the cookies were done and cooled, Lisa packed them in a small tin decorated with flowers that she'd been saving for a special occasion. She folded the letter and placed it on top of the cookies, then loaded Maya into the car for the trip back to the pharmacy. Lisa's plan was simple. Give the cookies and letter to Mr. Rodriguez and ask if he could pass them along to Robert the next time he came in. She had no idea if Robert was a regular customer or if he'd just been there by coincidence, but it was worth trying. The Saturday afternoon pharmacy was much quieter than it had been on Tuesday. Mr. Rodriguez was working alone behind the counter, organizing medication bottles on the shelves. He looked up and smiled when he saw Lisa and Maya approaching. "Well, hello there. How is our little patient doing?" he asked Maya warmly. "I'm good," Maya announced proudly. "I didn't cough at all last night, and I could run really fast at recess yesterday." "That's wonderful to hear," Mr. Rodriguez said, genuinely pleased. "Your medicine is working perfectly." Lisa stepped forward with the cookie tin. "Mr. Rodriguez, I was hoping you could help me with something. The man who helped us the other day, Robert, I wanted to thank him properly, but I don't know how to reach him. Would it be possible for you to give this to him the next time he comes in?" Mr. Rodriguez's expression changed slightly, and he looked thoughtful for a moment. "Robert, you said? The gentleman in the navy suit?" "Yes, that's him. He was so kind to us, and I just wanted to show my appreciation." Mr. Rodriguez glanced around the pharmacy to make sure they were alone. then leaned forward slightly. "Can I ask what you know about Robert?" Lisa was puzzled by the question. Not much, really. Just that he grew up with a single mother and understands what it's like to struggle with medical expenses. He seemed like a very good man. Mr. Rodriguez nodded slowly. "He is a very good man, but there's something you should probably know about him." He paused as if deciding how much to reveal. "The Robert who helped you is Robert Chen. He's the CEO of Chen Medical Systems." Lisa blinked, not immediately understanding the significance. "Chen Medical Systems? They own about half the hospitals in our state," Mr. Rodriguez explained gently. "It's one of the largest healthcare companies in the region. Robert Chen is, well, he's a very wealthy man." Lisa felt her knees go weak. She gripped the edge of the pharmacy counter for support. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. He comes in here every Tuesday afternoon to pick up medication for his elderly mother. Has been doing it for years. Never makes a big deal about who he is. Most people have no idea they're talking to one of the most successful businessmen in the city." Maya was looking back and forth between the adults, sensing that something important was being discussed but not understanding what. "What's a CEO?" she asked innocently. "It means he's the boss of a really big company," Lisa managed to say, her voice sounding distant to her own ears. "Like the biggest boss?" "Like the biggest boss," Mr. Rodriguez confirmed with a gentle smile. Lisa's mind was reeling. The man who had quietly paid for Maya's medication, who had knelt down to talk to her daughter about cursive writing and art, who had shared personal stories about his childhood, that man was the CEO of a major healthcare company. Someone who probably made more money in a day than she made in a year, and yet he had treated them with such genuine respect and kindness. There had been no condescension, no sense that he was doing them a favor from on high. He had simply been one parent helping another parent, just as he'd said. Does he do this often?" Lisa asked quietly. Mr. Rodriguez looked around again, then lowered his voice. "I probably shouldn't tell you this, but since you're asking, yes. Over the years, I've seen him quietly help several families who couldn't afford their medications. He always asks me not to mention it, always insists on keeping it private. He doesn't want recognition or thanks. He just wants to help." Lisa thought about the foundation concept Maya had asked about paying it forward, about chains of kindness. Now she understood that Robert wasn't just participating in random acts of kindness. He was systematically using his wealth and position to help people in need, all while maintaining complete anonymity and humility. "What should I do with these cookies?" Lisa asked, still holding the decorated tin. "Oh, definitely give them to me," Mr. Rodriguez said with a warm smile. "He'll be in Tuesday afternoon and I know he'll appreciate them." "But Lisa?" He looked at her seriously. "Don't feel like you owe him anything more than what you've already done. The fact that Maya is healthy and you're both doing well, that's all the thanks he needs." As they walked back to the car, Maya skipped ahead while Lisa processed this new information. She had been helped by someone who could afford to buy the entire pharmacy without thinking about it. Yet he had treated her situation with the same gravity and respect as if he were in her shoes. It made his kindness even more meaningful, somehow. He hadn't helped them because $300 was pocket change to him. He had helped them because he genuinely understood what it meant to be in their position, and he remembered what it felt like to need help. "Mommy," Maya said as they buckled their seatbelts, "I think that nice man really might be an angel." Lisa looked at her daughter in the rearview mirror and smiled. "You know what, baby? I think you might be right." 6 months later, Lisa stood in the break room of Valley Medical Center, adjusting her new employee ID badge and smiling at her reflection in the small mirror by the coffee machine. The badge read, "Lisa Martinez, Patient Services Coordinator," and even after 3 weeks on the job, seeing those words still felt like a dream. The position had opened up unexpectedly when the previous coordinator had moved to another state. Lisa had almost not applied. Her only healthcare experience was from being Maya's advocate through all her medical appointments. But the hiring manager, Mrs. Patterson, had been impressed by Lisa's genuine empathy and her ability to understand what families went through during medical crises. Sometimes the best qualification for helping people, Mrs. Patterson had said during the interview, is having been in their shoes yourself. Lisa's new job came with full health benefits, a steady schedule that meant she could be home with Maya every evening, and most importantly, The chance to help other families navigate the complicated world of healthcare costs and insurance coverage. For the first time in over a year, Lisa felt like she was building something instead of just surviving. Maya was thriving too. Her asthma was completely under control with regular medication, and she had joined the school art club where her drawings were consistently chosen for display in the hallway. Just last week, she had come home bubbling with excitement about a story she was writing called The Angel in the Pharmacy, clearly inspired by her memory of Robert's kindness. Lisa had tried several times to see Robert again at the pharmacy, hoping to tell him how much their lives had changed. But Mr. Rodriguez explained that Robert had been traveling for business and hadn't been in for his regular Tuesday visits. He assured Lisa that Robert had received her cookies and letter, and had been genuinely touched by the gesture. He asked me to tell you, Mr. Rodriguez had said, that seeing Maya running around healthy and happy was all the thanks he could ever want. Today was different, though. Lisa had received an unexpected call from Mr. Rodriguez that morning, asking if she might be available to help with something at the pharmacy after work. He had been vague about the details, but his tone suggested it was important. Lisa finished her shift at the hospital and drove to the pharmacy, wondering what Mr. Rodriguez might need. When she walked in, she saw him talking quietly with a young woman who looked to be in her early 20s. The woman was holding a prescription paper and a crying baby, and even from across the store, Lisa could see the stress written all over her face. Mr. Rodriguez waved Lisa over to the consultation area behind the pharmacy counter, where they could talk privately. "Lisa, I'm glad you could come," he said quietly. "I have a situation here that reminded me a lot of yours a few months ago, and I thought maybe you could help." He nodded toward the young woman, who was now trying to soothe her baby while reading the prescription information. "That's Amanda. She's 22, single mother. Her baby has a serious ear infection that needs specific antibiotics. The medication costs $230 and she has about $40 to her name." Lisa's heart immediately went out to the young mother. She recognized the look of desperation, the way Amanda kept checking and rechecking her wallet as if the money might magically appear. "She doesn't have insurance?" Lisa asked. "Lost it when she aged out of her parents' plan. She's working 2 part-time jobs just like you were, but neither offers benefits. The baby's father isn't in the picture." Mr. Rodriguez paused, studying Lisa's face. "I know it's a lot to ask, but I remembered what Robert told you about paying it forward when you can." "I thought maybe—" Lisa understood immediately. 6 months ago, she had been in Amanda's exact position, desperate and afraid, not knowing how she would afford her child's medication. Now, for the first time since Robert had helped them, she was in a position where she might be able to help someone else. Her new job paid well enough that she had been able to build up a small savings account, nothing huge, but enough to cover emergencies. $230 would be tight, but it wouldn't devastate her finances the way Maya's medication cost would have. "Of course," Lisa said without hesitation. "Of course I'll help." Mr. Rodriguez smiled broadly. "I was hoping you'd say that. But Lisa, are you sure? I don't want you to put yourself in a difficult position." "I'm sure," Lisa said firmly. "Besides, I think I know someone who would approve of this decision." Lisa approached Amanda carefully, not wanting to embarrass her or make the situation more difficult. She had learned from Robert's example that dignity was just as important as the help itself. "Excuse me?" Lisa said gently. "I couldn't help but notice you're having trouble with your prescription costs." Amanda looked up, her eyes red from crying and exhaustion. The baby was still fussy, clearly uncomfortable from the infection. "I'm sorry, I know I'm holding up the line. I don't know what else to do. He needs this medicine, but I can't afford it." Lisa knelt down just as Robert had done with Maya months earlier. "How old is your baby?" 8 months, Amanda said, her voice shaking. "His name is Tyler. He's been crying for 2 days straight, and the doctor said if the infection gets worse, he might need to go to the hospital." Lisa looked at the prescription bottle Mr. Rodriguez was holding. Tyler needed antibiotics that would clear up the infection and ease his pain. Without them, a simple ear infection could become something much more serious. "Amanda, I'd like to help you with the medication," Lisa said quietly. "Would that be okay?" Amanda stared at her in disbelief. What? You don't even know me." "No, I don't," Lisa agreed. "But 6 months ago, I was standing in this exact spot with my daughter, unable to afford her asthma medication. A stranger helped us, and he told me that someday, when I could, I should help someone else the same way. Tears started flowing down Amanda's cheeks again. But these were different tears. You would do that for us? I would be honored to do that, Lisa said, meaning every word. She walked to the counter and handed her credit card to Mr. Rodriguez, who processed the payment with the same warm efficiency he had shown during her own crisis. As the transaction completed, Lisa felt something she hadn't expected. Not just satisfaction, but genuine joy. This was what Robert had meant about paying it forward. The feeling of being able to help, of being part of something larger than yourself. Amanda was overwhelmed with gratitude, just as Lisa had been. I don't know how to thank you. I don't even know your name. I'm Lisa. And you don't need to thank me, Lisa said, echoing Robert's words from months earlier. Just remember this moment, and someday when you're able, help someone else who needs it. As Amanda left the pharmacy with Tyler's medication, promising to pay it forward someday, Mr. Rodriguez smiled at Lisa with obvious pride. You know, he said, Robert is going to love hearing about this. You'll tell him what happened? Are you kidding? This is exactly the kind of story he lives for. He always says that the real magic happens when kindness creates more kindness. Lisa felt a warm glow of satisfaction as she drove home that evening. Maya was waiting for her with a new drawing, this one showing 3 stick figures labeled Mommy, Maya, and the nice man, all holding hands in front of the pharmacy. At the bottom in Maya's careful cursive writing were the words paying it forward. How did you know about today, sweetheart? Lisa asked, amazed by the timing. Maya shrugged with the casual wisdom of a 7-year-old. I just knew that when people are kind to us, we should be kind to other people too. That's what makes the world better, right? Lisa hugged her daughter tightly, marveling at how a child could understand something so profound so simply. That's exactly right, baby. Later that night, after Maya was asleep, Lisa sat at her kitchen table and wrote another letter. This one was to Robert, telling him about Amanda and Tyler, about the joy of being able to help instead of needing help, and about how his single act of kindness had created ripples that were still spreading outward. She ended the letter with a promise. I will never forget what you taught us about kindness, and I will spend the rest of my life looking for opportunities to pay it forward. Thank you for showing Maya and me that there are angels walking among us and that sometimes we get the chance to be angels for someone else. As she sealed the envelope, Lisa realized that the scared, desperate woman who had stood in the pharmacy 6 months ago was gone. In her place was someone stronger, more confident, and most importantly, someone who understood that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in the ability to make a difference in another person's life. The chain of kindness that Robert had talked about was real, and it was growing stronger with each person it touched. Lisa couldn't wait to see where it would go next.